Hello, good evening, and welcome to This Week Unloaded with your hosts, Tardar357, Gunpowder Bunny, and Rich White, with special guests, Clover Tech, Ghost Tactical, Gizzard Gary, Rick's Life as I See It, and now your host, Tardot357.
All right, so how is it going, everybody? I'm trying to get all the chats up and all of our articles and links up.
I forgot Night Strike, sorry.
Oh, yeah, Night Strike's in here too. And you got, yeah. So I hope everybody's having a great night. Y'all get to hear me again after, if y'all were on Clearing the Chamber. If you weren't, make sure you subscribe to Tardot357 and put in the little bell. I'll throw my little plug right now. And you'll get notified when I go live. So tonight we've got kind of a little bit of a hot topic that just recently happened. Something Rich sent out, and we're going to discuss that. It has to do with Oklahoma and constitutional carry. But before we get to that, let's check out who's in the chats tonight. We've got on the Gun Channel side, of course, Night Strike, John Z, and me are in there. Of course, we're in here also. And then you've got Einstein / General Relativity and Rick's Life as I See It, which Rick is in here with us too. And then on the YouTube side, if it'll load up, being kind of slow at the moment, we have got, let me pop the chat out here. See, right now we've got Armament and Axes, Black Cat Outdoors, Ghost Tactical, and you're in here also with us. And then we've also got Vanessa Kitty and Zippy9898 and Mohawk Boy. And GunTube's in here. I wonder who that could be.
I wonder.
All right, so tonight's topic we got is recently Oklahoma had constitutional carry going through. Got to the governor, and I believe it was on Friday, so yesterday / last night, she decided to veto the constitutional carry bill. And I've got the article pulled up. Let me see if I can get the link out to everybody in the YouTubes and gun channels. Just in case they want to follow along, I'll go ahead and read through it, but let me get y'all the links. All right. Sorry, guys. Really wasn't prepared when I started this.
Shame on you.
Yep, shame on me. And of course, YouTube is being slow and giving me a little bit of grief here. All right, so the link is there on YouTube's for y'all. Just remember, if you have issues with the link, I believe it's hashtag or # or number sign or whatever you refer to it as yourself. You put that at the end of the link, and it supposedly will start working. I haven't actually tried it myself, so I can't promise that it works, but it should work for you. Anyway, so
about the Fox News article, correct?
Yes, it's going to be the Fox News article.
Okay,
and
I posted it up on YouTube. Hopefully that works. If anybody on YouTube clicks that and it doesn't work, let me know and I'll correct it.
Yep, just let us know. We'll get it fixed for you. So the article is titled Oklahoma Governor Vetoes Gun Carry Bill in Defeat for NRA. So what we got is Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin on Friday, or Fallon, vetoed the constitutional carry bill that, if passed, would have enabled gun owners in the state to carry without first obtaining a permit. The NRA had supported the bill's passage and had urged Fallon to sign it. While Oklahoma is a state that respects the Second Amendment, Fallon said in a statement, she chose to veto the bill, also known as Senate Bill 1212, because the firearms requirement we currently have in state law are few and reasonable. Oklahoma is a state that respects the Second Amendment. As governor, I have signed both concealed carry and open carry legislation. I support the right to bear arms and own a pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun, the statement read. Oklahomans believe that law-abiding individuals should be able to defend themselves. I believe the firearms requirement we currently have in state law are few and reasonable. Senate Bill 1212 eliminates the training requirements for persons carrying firearms in Oklahoma. It reduces the level of the background check necessary to carry a gun. It continued. See, Fallon added that the bill eliminates the current ability of Oklahoma law enforcement to distinguish between those carrying guns who have been trained and vetted and those who have not, echoing an argument that many lawmakers who oppose the mandate, such as Democratic State Representative Shane Stone, made while it was debated. The mandate is anti-safety and anti-law enforcement and too far out there, Stone previously told Fox News. Again, I believe the firearms laws we currently have in place are effective, appropriate, and minimal, and serve to reassure our citizens that people who are carrying handguns in this state are qualified to do so. The bill passed the Oklahoma House of Representatives in a 59-28 vote in late April. It passed the state Senate on May 2nd in a 33-9 vote. At the time, some lawmakers expected Fallon to pass the legislation, while the bill's author, Republican Senator Nathan Dahm, was wary that Fallon would choose to veto constitutional carry because she had never vetoed other gun legislation in the past. Some 11 other states have passed similar legislation, which, if implemented in Oklahoma, would have eliminated the requirement to complete a short firearms safety and training course from a certified instructor and demonstrate competency with a pistol before carrying a gun in public, according to the governor's office. So, I know Clover was mentioning having some little bit of background on this, so I was going to go ahead and let Clover jump in on this, since he said he's been doing a little bit of homework and has got some background. So, Clover, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I won't interject any opinion, but I would like to throw out what I've found before people start throwing out opinion. That way, if I don't know, it may change minds, it may change opinions. I don't know. Little background on the governor there is she was elected as a lieutenant governor in 95. Served there for a little over 10 years, actually more like about 15 years. And then moved into the U.S. House of Representatives for Oklahoma. And then from there, this is her second and final term. She's a lame duck as Oklahoma governor. So been in major political roles now for years. Some of the other digging that I found on her, she's got some pretty strong political alignments and has in the past and currently for the future seeking like a vice president spot or selection with some of those political alignments that she's trying to make. Found some evidence of that as well, and this isn't the first time that she's had some controversial or flip-flop type statements, decisions, whatever. One thing that I did find really interesting about this situation as I was digging, she didn't just veto this, she vetoed 15 freaking bills that were put on her desk this legislative session. Just vetoed every freaking one of them. And what's interesting is you had this carry bill, of course. You had another NFA bill that would essentially make, right now, from what I was reading with that, Oklahoma, be really interesting to have P226 nut here maybe. But from what I was reading, Oklahoma, a lot of the sheriffs and stuff like that are not wanting to sign off on NFA things. So this would, in a sense, make it a shall issue in a way for NFA items. That was one of the ones she vetoed as well. And then a bill for having to do with blades and knives, sort of similar to the Texas legislation we had, that it opened it up. vetoed that as well. And then, of course, the LBGTQWRXYZ community. There was even some bills that she vetoed dealing with that, which was weird. And they're upset at her as well. A question that I had earlier that I did find out. Oklahoma, the legislature has attempted constitutional carry bill in some form for quite a few sessions now. So this is not the first one out of the gate. That's kind of what I was curious about, if maybe they were trying right out of the gate, or if they're doing like Texas and kind of building toward it or whatever. But it seems like they've or I say it doesn't seem. I mean, I actually was pulling up past bills, and they have tried it before. None of them have got this kind of traction or gained this kind of ground, of course. And then as far as those bills go, there are quite a few statements from quite a few of the Oklahoma politicians saying that they have the votes. They are going to, go over her head. They are going to try to override some of that stuff. Not just the one bill, but, several, if not all of the 15. Now, one statement, and you alluded to that in that article, is where, you see it and it says that, one of her deals was that, law enforcement had concerns of this, that, and the other. I can find no reports from any law enforcement agency where they testified for or against during the floor time, anything like that, any public statements from any of them, with the exception of the Oklahoma, the Oklahoma, let me pull up my notes here. The Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation. Interestingly enough, the Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation is the one that oversees all the licenses. And that was a question too, is how much money are they making all those licenses? What is the cost? It's $100 in Oklahoma. So more than twice what it is here in Texas. And an article that I actually have pulled up here, which is really weird. And this is talking about the governor and everything. And it says state Democrats, gun control advocates, and the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation have concerns about the legislation. So that worries me a little bit with that language, because that's putting Democrats and gun control advocates on the same level. And of course, it's media, so take it for what you will. But that's some of the backstory that I found that I thought was kind of interesting. So everybody can kind of take it from there.
That definitely sounds pretty interesting, especially considering, they refer in the article how she keeps saying the process is easy to get through, and it's easy to get a license. Well, it may be easy as far as the testing, but when you charge $100 to get your license, just to get your license, I mean, you're not even talking about training classes. That's the same issue we did have here in Texas until, what was that, a year or earlier this year.
In that same article, I got it pulled up here, where they kind of lump the gun control advocates and all that stuff with the State Bureau of Investigation there. It goes on to say that this is a statement from the Bureau. This is not from an anti-gun person. This is actually from the Bureau that does that. It says there's no way for law enforcement to distinguish lawful gun owners from unlawful gun owners, and no recourse for law enforcement who encounter individuals with firearms unless they're committing a crime. So, I mean, I get that. But it also, in one of these articles that I read, and I can't remember where, it basically alluded to, and this was coming out of the governor's office, was alluding to how essentially they did not want anybody carrying that they could not ensure they at least had some type of training, i.e. their carry program you have to go through.
Which, and I know most of us will agree, none of us are really against training, but let me toss it through the room. So, Rick, you got any sentiments towards this, or any thoughts on the subject?
Well, from our chat earlier, Clover definitely done his homework for us, come up with some reason. To me, it sounds like it's all about the money now. But then again, I've got, as I was saying in my chat, well, not in the live chat, but tonight's right before we started. I must be, I guess you can call me a FUD, I guess. Maybe because I lived so long in Europe and living up here where it takes so much to get a license that where she stated in one of her comments was that people who have a license, open or concealed, have had some training, and you're taking that totally away. I know the Constitution says the right and bear arm, and shall not be infringed, but it scares me that somebody like me, for instance, 2.5 years ago, I had no clue I never held a gun in my life. I mean, a handgun. And to give me a handgun and let me carry it, like I'm, would scare the hell out of me. That's why I went and had training to learn how to shoot. I mean, that's my only part about the constitutional carry part I don't like. So, does that make me a FUD?
No, not necessarily in my eyes. I can agree with the aspect. Like I said, I'm sure none of us will disagree with, needing some form of training. Before I start going on a rant and rave, I want to make sure I get through everybody, since we got a pretty good sized panel tonight. And I know Ghost actually had some sentiments towards this. He mentioned beforehand that may differ from a lot of people in the panel and in the chat. Ghost, you there? What do you got, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to get some hatred over this, but it is what it is. But I kind of agree with what the governor said. For those of us that tend to forget, I got 2 points real quick. The Republican Party, okay, let's remember this. She's a Republican. The Republican Party's platform for a long, long time has been to give less federal government and more state rights, give the states more of the power. The Democratic Party wants more bigger federal government, okay? So I think it's hilarious that Republicans will sit there and say, I'm a Republican, but yet when the state decides to invoke their privilege that the Republican Party seems to want them to have is states' rights, they get bent out of shape. Either you want the states to have more power or you don't. Regardless of that, that's not my point. My point is this. I do believe that this was probably a decent decision because Oklahoma is a lot like Arkansas. We are a shall issue state. You have to get licensed to be concealed carry. You have to pass certain tests to get that license. Now, it may not be the most stringent tests in the world, but at least you're having to at least show that you're at least somewhat proficient and somewhat safe with a firearm. As a concealed carry holder and an enhanced concealed carry holder in Arkansas, I think it's a good thing because as a responsible gun owner, the last thing we need, especially right now, is someone out there who is, like Rick said, an inexperienced gun user who can now conceal carry without ever having shot a gun, without having any kind of training whatsoever. And what if there's a negligent discharge? What if they brandish their weapon in a place that it wasn't necessary? This is going to give a lot more people that are responsible gun owners a bad name. That being said, I say this: if you are a person who wants to conceal carry,
real quick,
if you're a person who wants,
there's one problem.
Okay.
There's one problem with your analogy. There's one problem with your analogy on that, and I'm going to explain why.
Sure.
Oklahoma doesn't carry to their own citizens of the state, but they recognize constitutional carry in every other state that has it. If I go to Oklahoma, I don't need a permit to carry a concealed weapon. If I was from Oklahoma, I would.
Okay.
So the governor is talking out both sides of the
The governor doesn't speak for everybody else. The governor speaks for her own citizens. The governor is basically saying for her own citizens in the state of Oklahoma, she doesn't want anyone to.
But they're letting other people from other states carry without a permit already. If somebody from West Virginia, Kansas, Missouri goes to Oklahoma, they don't need a permit to carry in Oklahoma. She's restricting her citizens, the citizens of her state, to have a permit when people from other states don't. If they go to that,
then I guess that you probably shouldn't live in Oklahoma then.
Yeah, it's hypocritical is the point I'm making. What she's doing is hypocritical. she signed a bill. I believe she's the one who signed it that said other people from other constitutional carry states can carry in her state, while then restricting her people from being allowed to do the same.
She's not okay. Yeah, with the
I
constitutional
guess I'm done.
carry.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead and
it's fine.
finish, because
I just wanted to get that out there because I get what you're saying, but I also wanted to make sure all the information got out there because maybe that would influence what you were thinking.
It's not going to influence anything. It's not going to influence anything that I say. It's, as a matter of fact, it makes mine stronger. Is she is saying that she wants gun owners in Oklahoma to be responsible through some kind of training to go through. And here's the thing: if you want to be a concealed carry holder in the state of Oklahoma, then you got to want to do it. You've got to want to go through the classes. You've got to want to pay your money, and you've got to be wanting it bad enough that you're going to be responsible with it. What's wrong with that? What's wrong
There's
with
nothing wrong with
citizens to have to be responsible gun owners?
States that don't need a permit come into her state without a permit and carry. Without a permit. That's the problem. It's not what you're saying that's the problem. The problem is she's letting people, if she's going to do that to her own people, why is she allowing people from other states to come into her state without a permit and carry?
I think that most of the states in the South, which you may not be familiar with, the southern part of the U.S. with their gun laws, is if you basically look at the southern half or the southern region of the U.S., they reciprocate with basically everybody in America. And it has nothing to do because they have constitutional carry. It's the fact that they're sitting there saying, look, we're gun friendly in Oklahoma. If you come from another state, we're not going to be assholes until you can't carry in Oklahoma. Now, some of those states are constitutional carry. But what she's saying is I want my people to go through training. I want my people to be responsible. I actually applaud that for her.
I see where Ghost is going with it, and I'll admit I do.
That's not the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, but it's and here's the thing is,
critical saying people from other states don't need a permit. That's where I have an issue with what she's doing.
Rich, and I get where Ghost is coming from, and I get where you're coming from. So, yeah, Oklahoma, their law, their carry law is when you're coming from another state, you have to follow your state's laws as far as having a license. You don't have to follow the Oklahoma law as far as having a license. Now, everything else you do have to follow, obviously. But I get where Ghost is coming from. It's the idea that, okay, so Kansas or West Virginia, they're coming over to Oklahoma. They have constitutional carry in their state. The thought process behind it and what I think Ghost is getting at, and Ghost feel free to correct me, is so if I'm going from Kansas to Oklahoma, then I don't have to, in Kansas, I don't have to have a license. But then if I'm going to a state that requires a license, I have to suddenly go pay and buy a license, get my license. And the idea is, well, that's kind of an undue burden for somebody who already has that right in their own state. And so I kind of understand the perspective on that is she's speaking for her state, not the other states, and that, she's not going to invade the right of anybody. But the state law that they are currently having is just that they want those people to have that specific training, and she's not going to put the undue burden on somebody just traveling through.
The problem with that mindset is that her excuse for why she vetoed it is because constitutional carry would make the state less safe. If that's the case, wouldn't somebody else coming into the state without a permit also make the state less safe? But she wants to have it both ways. She wants to let people come in from other states without having to have a permit.
What she's saying is that she respects the other states' rights to issue whatever permit or not thereof.
Yeah, and every one of those states that has constitutional carry also issues a permit. If I want to carry in Virginia, I have to have a permit. I can't just go and carry in Virginia because I don't have to carry here in West Virginia. That's why I don't agree with what she's doing. Not because so much it's infringing on her people. But
can I jump in?
Her people a different class from people from other states.
What she's saying, though, is she's respecting the other states' rights to handle concealed carry however they want to. It's the other states' rights. What she's saying is, in my state, these are what my people are going to do.
Can you let somebody finish their thought first before you go cutting in and cutting them off?
Okay. Hey, take a breather. Take a breather. All right. Now I know Clover started to jump in there and had something to add to that. Clover, you want to jump in real quick and throw your?
If I can, I've got something brought up here, and didn't mention it earlier. I didn't think it'd be relevant, but it's going to be apparently, and that has to do with open carrying in Oklahoma. It says you're not required to possess a handgun permit when openly carrying a rifle, shotgun, or pistol in any legitimate purpose, not in violation of the Oklahoma Firearms Acts of 1971. Admittedly, I haven't read that, and it says, and this is in state, out of state, doesn't matter, which is weird. Their constitution actually calls for open carry as well, which is weird. It says here, legitimate purposes include, but not limited to, hunting, basically, competition, practice, participation, state or federal military activity, open carrying. What's it say? By regularly enrolled members of any organization that is authorized to purchase or receive weapons from the United States or from the state of Oklahoma, or transporting, and then educational or recreational activities. It goes on to people who may not carry a gun, which these would be, exempt if they open constitutional carry, obviously, but convicted of a felony, certain misdemeanors, minors, obviously, people adjudicated as mentally incompetent, people currently undergoing treatments for mental diseases, disorders, it says, any habitual misdemeanor criminal record, or anyone that acquires any Oklahoma license through fraud. So it's weird. Y'all started this conversation, and I got to looking into the Oklahoma Constitution and some of the other stuff, and it's like, according to this, they already supposed to have open carry. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah, that is a bit strange. So I'm gonna try to get through the panel real quick, and then we'll just kind of open it up, because I know it's getting kind of heated, and I know we kind of got a good topic going here.
Let Ghost finish this point. I didn't mean to go off on a rant like that, but I apologize, Ghost. But
I'm fine. You're fine, bro. I'm fine. I finished. I said my piece.
You sure? What to say? Now's the time to get it out.
No. I mean, I basically wanted to say that I agree with her right as a governor. Being a Republican, the state has the right to do whatever they want. If she's a leader that is not a federal, but if she's the elected leader of Oklahoma and she chooses to veto it, and under the precautions of what she's saying, I don't disagree with that. I think that either we want the states to have the right to do this, or we don't. If we don't, then we're Democrats. If we aren't, then we're conservative or Republicans. And you might not be. You might be libertarians. You might be constitutionalists. I'm a Republican, and I believe the state has the right to do what they want. And if that's the right that she chooses to have, I'm all for it. It just would make them more responsible gun owners. For me, that's just my point.
Well, can I take that? Can I take what you're talking about and go a different direction with it?
Absolutely.
You're talking about the state can do whatever they want. Well, the legislature, which is the body that represents the people and what the people want to do, vehemently spoke on essentially all 15 of the bills they vetoed and said, hey, the people want this. And then one person in the governor said, nah, I know what's best for everybody.
And it's just like in the federal level. If they have the votes to overturn the veto, then the people will speak.
Right. And it looks like that's what I think exactly. I ended on earlier. It looks like that's what they're going to do. Yeah.
And that's great. The people will speak. The people will have their choice, the chance to have their voice. It may be.
Well, that's what I was wanting to get out. You kept saying the state can do what they want. And I was like, it's really the people's decision. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to coax out of you. That's it.
Yeah, I'm out. No. The state, when I say the state, it doesn't necessarily mean, it means they're elected officials. And the governor is an elected official. She is, by all indications, the leader of that state. And if she chooses to veto it, that's her right. If the people and the legislators, the representatives that are elected by the people can and will overturn it, they're going to have their voice, and the people will overcome this. But I think what she was saying is she was taking a stance of saying that in the state of Oklahoma, I think that there are proper measures taken to be a concealed carry holder, and she respects the fact that you have to actually want to be a responsible concealed carry holder. If you want it bad enough, you're going to pay the $100. You're going to go get the training. And I think what she's saying is she likes the fact that someone has to work for it. It means they probably will be more responsible when they get their license.
Well, and in the political sense that we're talking about here, knowing her, vice presidential aspirations and some other things that I was reading about, is it at all possible that she said, okay, this passed the House and the Senate with these overwhelming majorities. The veto can easily be overridden. I'm going to wash my hands of it. I'm a lame duck. Somebody else is coming in. If it's a problem, somebody else, and they override, and it's a problem, somebody else can deal with it. I don't want this on my political record in case I get the shot to run for VP.
And I would say that if that's the case, and that is a very legitimate scenario, especially if I haven't done my homework like you have, but if she does look for a federal position, whether it's federal House or Senate or vice president or some sort of cabinet office, then absolutely that would make 100% sense.
Okay, real quick, Midnight Range asked who has reciprocity with Oklahoma. The answer to that is Oklahoma recognizes all 50 states plus 3 territories permits. Who recognizes Oklahoma? I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Well, and I'd like to throw in there, this is a good perspective for everybody, that this is exactly why most states and everything are set up how they are, and how our government's set up how it is, and you're kind of getting a firsthand perspective of this is what happens when you get disagreements in different levels of your government. So it's a pretty good perspective on it. John, you got anything you want to add into this?
I just want to state that I think it's the wrong move, and I hope it gets overturned. And I also would like to throw out a quick shout out to Early Watch Nation, and specifically Early Watch Michigan, who posted on Twitter Bill HR 5103, which is to impose 20% tax on purchase of firearms, 50% tax on purchase of ammunition. So if you live in Michigan, get on it. Contact your representatives.
Definitely. Awesome. Let's see, who do we got next? Gary, the Gizzard, Tactical Gizzard.
I got something to say.
Uh-oh.
In the first place, what this governor did is she's had this bill on her desk for a week now. And she waited until the legislature adjourned for the session before she vetoed the bill. Therefore, they would have to call an emergency session in order to override this veto, and she knew that. Which is kind of a chicken poop move to keep it PG here. Secondly, as far as the great training that you get for a CCL class, I don't know about Oklahoma, but I've been through the Kansas CCL class, and it's about basically 2 or 3 hours of what the different parts of a gun are and what kind of different holsters you can buy, maybe 2 or 3 hours of concealed carry law at the end, and 25 shots at an FBI target just to see if you can hit it. That's your education. And it cost me $225 to get that education. And I don't think concealed carry should be restricted to people who can come up with $225 just out of their pocket to pay for it. I don't think that's fair. That's
Right
just
on.
my 2 cents worth.
No, I can agree with that part of it, and that's I didn't really think about it in that sense, but that aspect kind of stands out too. That there's a reason she did it when she did it. I mean, especially considering it was almost like a last second thing, so that does kind of stand out. But I still they're going to have to wait till the next session, but to see if unless they manage to get an emergency session, they're going to have to get the veto overrode. But that's one of those things that if they really want to override it quickly, they would the legislation, the Senate and all of them will actually pull it together and get an emergency session set up. So.
Well, I mean, and don't lose sight either. We're talking 15 bills she did that with. Wasn't one. That's what boggles my mind. 15 bills, in the last hour she vetoed.
And if she's coming up at the end of her like you were saying earlier, on the end of her tenure, more or less, or her time as governor, she may just be vetoing everything that comes across, just so she doesn't have to have anything on her record that could, like you said, that could even affect her getting any kind of other political position further down the line. Night Strike, you got anything, man?
I know we pretty much covered everything other than, oh, wait a second. Yes, I do. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There we go.
Yep.
That's all I have to say.
No infringes.
The fact that she's going and...
She's not actually telling them that they can't own and bear arms. She's saying they can't conceal carry without a permit.
Either way, it seems... I have to agree with Gizzard on this one, because it seems a dick move to wait until they're out of session to veto it. It is a real dick move.
Yeah, but that's two issues too. You got to separate those.
Yeah, I would agree it was a crap move, but I mean the sentiments is still the same.
Either way, though.
Yeah.
I don't like any politician that runs on a platform saying, "Oh, hey, I'm pro-gun," and then just later on goes and says, "We've got enough pro-gun laws. We don't need any more, so I'm going to veto all these." I don't like any politician like that. Regardless of the reason, I don't care. I don't care for the reason. So, there you have it.
Okay. So, gunpowder. Dare I ask what your sentiments towards this is?
Honestly, I'm probably gonna piss some people off, but was it a crap move of what she did? Yeah, because she didn't really give the voice of the people and do what they wanted. But I like how, well, I don't like how she did it, but I kind of like why she did it. Because like Ghost was saying, other people from other states can come in, but she's more concerned about her state. And she wants her citizens to do the test, pass the background checks, get their concealed handgun license. You want to open carry, concealed carry, great. But my people need to be trained. My people need to make sure that they're going to be accurate, so you don't have someone accidentally shooting a kid because they didn't take the time to do the research, get the education, and put in their time, pretty much. I like the idea of constitutional carry, but at the same time, I have a lot of friends that I would not trust to pick up a gun for the first time and be able to protect themselves. I wouldn't trust a lot of people that I live around to pick up a gun. And I think that it does make the law enforcement job a lot more difficult, because now you've got people carrying around guns and you're not sure if they've got a license or not. When you open up a state to constitutional carry, how does that cop know that you're a threat or you're a law-abiding citizen? And I'm not in this where a lot of y'all are, where y'all have done the time, you've done the research, and y'all understand how this works. But me, as a mom, I like the thought of being able to protect myself, but I can tell you firsthand, before I sat there and got my concealed handgun license, before I ever started hunting, I wouldn't trust myself to be able to protect myself or my kids because I didn't have that education. And states that do that, it's your constitutional right, or it's your, whatever, it's your right, but that doesn't make it right. There's a lot of people out there that should not have guns. And I don't know. I feel like I'm going to go on a rant on it, but I agree with what a lot of people said. And I think that if someone's going to have a gun, they need to be willing to get a license and prove that they're going to be a law-abiding citizen.
Hey, I've got the I've got the Oklahoma Constitution up now, and I'll read that real quick. It's pretty quick. Something that does concern me about the Oklahoma Constitution. Freedom of speech basically is the 22nd Amendment, and right to bear is the 26th. So that's a little bit concerning to me. But it reads as follows: the right of a citizen to keep and bear arms in defense of his home, person, or property, or in aid of the civil power, when thereunto legally summoned, shall never be prohibited, but nothing herein contained shall prevent the legislator from regulating the carrying of weapons. So basically their constitution does give their legislature, their governing body, the power to regulate. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's kind of that's a weird one compared to a lot of states.
Yeah, it says shall not be infringed, except for the legislature.
But there are a few things I want to throw in on a lot of this, and that's she was elected into office, and Clover mentioned that for a while now. Now I don't know if it was before she was elected into office or not the first time, but they have been going over this for a while, trying to get constitutional carry, just like Texas has, and I'm sure Arkansas, if I remember right, and several other states, they've all been going through this year after year after year. Now, at what point does somebody not stand up and ask the governor in an election cycle, what are your sentiments towards constitutional carry, if it's that big of a concern for the citizens the citizens of that state? So that's kind of a perspective there, is that the citizens did elect her in, and she made the decision. If they didn't know her perspective on it before electing her in, that should have been something that should have been really asked if it was a hot topic for them. Sadly, a lot of the people that are going to be asking those questions don't think about that at the time of the election getting ready to go through.
And she historically has a very good rating with the NRA. And say what you will, hate what you want, whatever, but when a lot of people out there that don't pay attention or voting, that's all they do. They go check NRA voting records.
There you go. And to the perspective of kind of what Ghost was getting at, and what's kind of been a constant sentiment in the chat, minus a couple people, is I don't disagree with constitutional carry. The only part I disagree on is the fact that it does take a lot of that. I call it training, but you got to really think about it in the concept. When you go to get your concealed carry license, they call it a class, they call it training. It's really a test. It's a test of what you know. If you don't know anything about guns, it would honestly be best for someone to go get a basics course beforehand, before even really thinking about getting your carry license. Because all it is, more or less, is a test. They give you a little bit of training on laws, and when's the right time to do to pull your gun or shoot your gun if you're in defense, and going over, like Gary was saying, some of the functions and different aspects of firearm ownership. But it's still just really a test to make sure that you are at least able to do the basic need to defend yourself. It's not meant to teach you all aspects of firearms and firearm ownership. So with a lot of that said too, my sentiment towards it is, I think, and this is something I haven't really heard before, but it kind of dawned on me while we were talking about this, is one, Oklahoma really needs to lower their fee. Texas, we had I think the highest fee in the country not too long ago, if not one of the highest, at $140 or $150 just for the license, not even your testing. So you're talking, well, okay, New York, yeah, y'all don't count in that little aspect, but
one of the highest, one of the highest of shall issue.
There you go. Yeah, one of the highest of shall issue is what we had. And now we're down to $40, which they've come out and said really just covers the license itself. I bet you they could reduce the fee more also through changing up some of the aspects of the licensing. I think the background checks still need to be done, obviously, but why not just do something different on your driver's license? Issue a driver's license that has some kind of marking or designation to let the officer, if they need to know that you do have the right. Yeah, well, not even the right, just you have the capability because you've done the testing to carry. That I'm sure that is an aspect. It may not lower it to $5 or $10, but it may lower it another $10 to $15 possibly, because you've just gotten rid of the extra plastic and whatever else they use to actually print licenses. I mean, it's one of those things that could help reduce the cost and the burden on the people trying to get their licenses.
Well, I mean, if they did it on licenses, couldn't they do it to where it's, you've got your motorcycle license, your vehicle license, your 18-wheeler license, and they add those letters to it? Couldn't they do it where it's like, and this letter means that you're able to carry a gun? That would be cool.
That would, and I think it's something they could do. I don't know if anybody else agrees with that, but I think it's something that's a possibility. And like I said, it's not going to reduce your license fees, to literally nothing, but it's going to at least get rid of some of that fee because they don't have to worry about printing you a completely separate license. You just have it on your driver's license.
If it added $5 or $10 to my driver's license fee, but it was something else that I didn't have to carry, I didn't have to worry about losing it, and it was something that all states acknowledged and accepted, I wouldn't mind paying that extra $5, $10 because it's adding to my driver's license.
Right, but if that's all it's adding, when you allow the governments, whatever governments they may be, federal, state, or city, when you allow them to do things like this, which is why I said I hope they overturn her decision. When you allow the governments to do these things, they create more regulations because of it. And in addition to that, regulations cost money, they cost time, and all that is passed on to the taxpayers. And that's why I disagree with it wholeheartedly, because we all know that's going to happen.
Well, yeah, and it is. It's just adding another fee. And you got something to add to that, Gary? I saw you popped up there for a second.
Yeah, and I don't really want to say the same thing I did before. I guess my problem with it is one of the reasons we concealed carry is protect ourselves. If somebody is a new gun owner because they've started, maybe somebody's threatening them or they've moved to, and they feel like somebody stalkers and she wants to buy a gun. Okay, she buys her $200 or $300 gun. She's good. She keeps it in her purse, but oh wait, she can't do that without a concealed carry license. You got to come up with $100 or $200 to do that, and you're probably going to have to wait 4, 6, 8 night strike, 3 months. I mean, meanwhile, your stalker could do whatever they want to while you're waiting for this gun. Isn't the idea of concealed carry to be able to protect yourself, not have to deal with a bunch of bureaucracy and red tape and have to pay extra money? I mean, not everybody has extra money just to plop down for concealed carry. They might have spent all the money they had on that gun, but they still have the right to protect themselves. You shouldn't have to be rich for your life to be worth something.
Preach on.
Well, we all agree. I think we pretty much all agree that no matter what state you're from, the training that you get with license to carry, concealed carry permit, whatever you call it in whatever state, they're all crap, right? So with that in mind, here in Texas, we have, in other states, I'm sure we have the hunter's education program. You go online, you take it online, and then you basically show up and you do a, what is it called? A proficiency, whatever thing. It's called field day or something here. And you have to pay for the field day because, to me, it would make more sense to do the license to carry, concealed carry. Yeah, it's going to suck for those that are out there teaching it, because there's some very good instructors out there for license to carry. I know several of them here in the state of Texas, and they're not the run through the curriculum, run through the book, get you out on the range, stamp your stuff, and send you home. They actually go the extra mile, which is awesome. But, that's always something that I think people need to follow up on once they've, made that first step. They need to follow up. If they're not into this on a regular basis, or if they don't feel completely comfortable, then, follow up and do additional training as you get the money for that. But, I just think for the states, I mean, some type of online classroom thing would be fairly easy to implement. They already pretty much have the IT infrastructure that could facilitate that. And then just following up with some, a reasonably priced fee for the field day, and then you're done. And I think that could really streamline the process before you schedule your field day. Of course, your background stuff to run or whatever. And make no mistake, I mean, for most of the states, is their equivalency of their Department of Public Safety that runs the background check. It's not a terribly expensive. It literally costs like $5 to run that background check.
Yeah. And see, that was something I was going to bring up was, when you talk about the kind of the fee for the classes, and I've always thought that was kind of outrageous. And I'll use Texas as an example, obviously, because I am here. I've seen ranges and your instructors that charge $90-something for a class. I've seen ranges and instructors that'll charge $30-something for a class. I've seen them for $60, and then you occasionally get the ones that do it for free for like churches and different little organizations. So there's such a drastic difference in pricing, and you could argue the capitalism aspect of it, but there's such a drastic difference in pricing for more or less a class for a government issued ID, that there should, with it being a government mandated course to get your license to actually be able to carry your gun, there does need to be some kind of, dare I say it, regulation on the pricing. And now that obviously would drop down to the state to do it, but there does need to be something in place, because when you get your testing and you go and sit there and got to spend almost $100 to get your test, and then spend $100 or $150 to get your license itself, yeah, that's getting ridiculous.
Well,
so
that's going to affect. I mean, if you do that, that's going to affect the good trainers that are out there. They're either going to get out of the game, or they're going to just start doing the bare minimum, right? But I think it may also create an opportunity. It's one of them things where, God, it's like just everything else in life, really, in a way. I would think if they're a good trainer, they would seize that opportunity to say, okay, I can only charge this much, so I'm going to back off a little bit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to promote my additional training, and then get those people back in, that way, and actually make their money not necessarily on the carry courses themselves, but the additional training, which that serves, the purpose of getting people additional training, right? So, I mean, it's got a, I don't know, it's just got a better end game to me.
Yeah, and if you look at it, a lot of your trainers, from what I've seen, they get more money off of the other training anyways, and so they're going to push it regardless, whether they're doing the concealed carry course and talking to those people about the additional training or not. Right. They're going to try to promote that, because I've seen where, you'll have a trainer or a range that charges $80 for the concealed carry course, and then they'll charge $100 and something for other training.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, anybody here in the chat or out there, on either side of the stream. But here in Texas, I looked into it several years ago when it first started here in Texas. You could pretty much go to Austin for like 3 days or a week or something, and bam, you were an instructor, good to go, right? And I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I've had tons and tons of people just with what I do ask, do I teach it? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. I primarily work with kids or whatever, right? And I actually kind of poked around a little bit with the idea of doing it because I could do it for parents of the kids and stuff like that. I thought that might be handy to have, right? And it was restricted to like you had to like have basic peace officer certification or something. I want to say the last time I looked into it, unless I was talking to absolutely the wrong people. And I
don't remember if it was peace officer or if it was there is a specific certification you already have to have.
I don't remember if that's what it was or not, but there was a whole other ball of wax you had to jump through. And I'm like, man, there ought to be a class, as long as you pass all the background checks and, you have some type of, show some type of proficiency at the end of that class or whatever, anybody should be able to go and do that. They shouldn't restrict that to security personnel or law enforcement or whatever it might be. That doesn't make any sense because what they've done, I think, and at least here in Texas with that that setup, is they've created a lack of competition in the market for people that teach the course, right?
Exactly. And I've looked at because I've the same thing you just said. I've thought about the same thing about getting the going through the process of getting the instructor's license. And really, now that part of it, I think is kind of ridiculous. But then when you look at the aspect of what the actual training is it's not that different than just getting your license. Because from what I've looked at, like when you go to do your shooting, your percentages just jump up. So like when you go to do your shooting, instead of doing I think it's 70 or 75%, you've got to do, I think it's 95, 90. You basically can only miss like once or twice, more or less, and you've almost damn near got to have a perfect score to do the instructor's part, which I don't disagree with. You should be very proficient to be able to talk about somebody else's proficiency, but there should be a little different aspect to their training. You shouldn't just increase the scores. I think there should be a little bit of different additions that should be on the training, I guess.
Well, I'm looking at it now. I pulled it up right quick for Texas because I was like, I'm just curious. So I'm good now. I wasn't before, but you have to be a certified instructor through the NRA, TCLOS, security officer, or military, ex-military. That is the number one prerequisite to teach it here in Texas. So maybe I need to look into it a little further now.
Yeah, and so and I was thinking, I remembered what you were talking about with there being being a peace officer previously, and that was pretty much what you had. I think it was something to that extent on the licensing, but yeah, I do remember seeing that now where it said if you had your NRA instructor, you were good. So that's a good thing. It's pretty cool. All right. Does anybody else?
I just want to
go ahead.
Out there, Guns and Gadgets uploaded a video regarding Southern New Hampshire University. So they kicked out a police officer in uniform on duty attending a graduation for a family member because he had a firearm on him. That's right. A police officer carrying a firearm on duty. They kicked him out of the graduation.
But he was active.
Talk about anti-gun, anti-police. And that's in New Hampshire.
Well, I have mixed sentiments about that because I kind of agree that it does kind of show an anti-police, anti-gun side, but at the same time, the comments been made before in different chats that if they are providing enough security to be sufficient to ensure the safety to the same extent that, having somebody that's licensed to carry or a on-duty police officer to be able to see the graduation without needing to feel necessary to carry their gun, and then they're good. But I can see the aspect with them being an on-duty police officer. I don't know what the laws for New Hampshire are, but there's several other states that probably or colleges/states that probably wouldn't have said the same thing to an on-duty officer just for that aspect. But I don't know how many on-duty officers would be going to a graduation while they're on duty, because that might not be a popular sentiment with their chief. All right. So does anybody else have anything, or any new news, or other news they want to talk about tonight?
I got one thing to throw in.
Go for it.
I just wanted to say, way off topic here, but buried my mother this morning. And I wanted to say thank you to all the Gun Channels people out there who went together for the flowers and the plaque from my Gun Channels family from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate all that. Thank you very much.
We love you, Gary. Hang in there, buddy.
I love you too.
Yeah, I was really saddened, and like I said in the message I put on the post you had put out, that I know, just like everybody else in here and in the chat, I'm sure you're in our thoughts and prayers, and it was a sad thing to see, and yeah.
I appreciate everybody being there. It's a hard time to get through, and hopefully with your help, I will get through it all. So, and try to get back to normal here. So, here we go.
I might be the only one in here. What happened? I haven't been able to connect with Gun Channel's website that well the past few days. So, what happened? What I miss?
My mother passed away 2 days ago. She was 95 years old. She was not doing well in health at all. It was not totally unexpected, but still.
Sorry to hear that, Gary. Yeah, sorry.
You can try to prepare yourself all you want to for things like that, but you can never be prepared. That's what I found out. It's tough. It's just tough.
I can imagine. We knew my father-in-law was going to die like 10 years ago, right before he passed. Everybody knew it was coming, but it's still. I get exactly what you're saying.
And all I've got to say is, if you've got a mother or father that's still alive, spend time with them. Spend every chance you can. Visit them. Let them know you love them. Time's short. You never know when it'll run out.
Definitely words to live by. So, all right, we'll run it through the room. Let everybody have their plugs and any last comments. So, Clover, what you got, buddy?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot. I mean, check out all the shows, and then on the heels of what Gary said, tomorrow being Mother's Day is a great day. So spend time with mom and grandmom and wife, and all of that good stuff. Tell them that you love them. Make sure that they know you appreciate them. All that good stuff.
Rick, you got anything, man?
No, I just want to say thanks for letting me be on the panel. Have some good stuff here. My shows are Wednesdays and Thursdays, but follow everybody else's. But I did notice in the chat, people are saying that the panel here believes in gun control, and that isn't what I was saying. I believe in constitutional carry, but I'm concerned there might be somebody out there who's an idiot and has a gun, doesn't know what to do with it. That's the part that scares me. That's all I'm going to say. That's it.
All right. Ghost, you're up.
Thanks for having me. It was a great show. Be out there, stay vigilant, stay strong, turn your cameras on, be part of the community, and happy Mother's Day.
All right, John Z. You there, John?
Oh, sorry, muted. I just want to say Happy Mother's Day to everybody. Thank you to all our panel guests, and thank you for everybody on Gun Channels as well as YouTube. Hashtag Gun Channels is better than YouTube for joining us today.
All right, Rich White, the privileged 1%. What you got, man?
Nothing much. I mean, this is about anything I really do during the week. So just like, subscribe, and see you next week, everyone.
Gary, you got any plugs you want to throw out there?
GizzardGary.com. And we had some great discussion today. I enjoyed it. A lot of good points out there. And thanks for the invite as always.
Jonas, nice strike. What you got, man?
Hashtag GunTube is better than YouTube. GunTube.org. Check it out.
Hashtag I agree.
Gunpowder, don't overstep your. I haven't called your name yet. Gunpowder.
I will throat punch you, sir.
She'll do it.
I just might. That'll probably be my.
Daddy.
Wow. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, apparently that's going to be my first video on GunTube is either throat or face punching Tardot. No, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. I hope everybody out there has a great weekend, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there watching. Don't forget, tomorrow's Gun Gals at 8:30 Central Standard Time on Gelsma Outdoors.
All right, and as far as for me, make sure you check out Tardot 357 on YouTube and all the social media sites. And make sure you check out www.tardotproductions.com for blogs and the shirt store and everything, all that other good stuff. I am going to start doing a little bit more on Instagram. I'm actually thinking of starting up a series where I let everybody kind of guide. It's going to be produced content, but let everybody kind of guide the videos through doing little polls for everybody to vote on and put what they want me to talk about or what they think on a certain subject, so we can go through it on a produced video. And keep an eye out, because we're going to have more NRA content dropping. I've got a lot of editing to still do between tonight and tomorrow, so we're going to have a lot more dropping over the next several days. So I hope everybody has a great night. And as for me, 2A every day.
Shall not be infringed.
Meow.